The sun is warm, the flowers are open, the air should be alive with movement. You expect to hear it, that soft, steady hum drifting from bloom to bloom. But instead, there is silence. Not the peaceful kind, the unnatural kind. For centuries, bees have been one of the most reliable sounds of life on Earth. Their quiet buzzing has followed human civilization from ancient farms to modern cities. We barely notice them most days. They work in the background, invisible and tireless, pollinating crops, sustaining ecosystems, and quietly holding the fabric of our food system together. But something is changing. Across continents, researchers, farmers, and beekeepers are witnessing an alarming pattern. Bees are disappearing. Entire colonies collapse without warning. Hives that once thrived are found empty. Wild bee populations shrink year after year. In some regions, beekeepers report losing over 40% of their colonies annually. Why is this happening? Is it pesticides, climate change, habitat destruction, disease? Or is it something even more complex, a combination of pressures that bees simply cannot withstand? This is not just a story about insects. It is a story about food, about ecosystems, about agriculture, about the invisible systems that support human survival. And perhaps most importantly, it is a story about time. Because the disappearance of bees is not sudden. It is gradual, subtle, easy to ignore, until it is too late. In this documentary, we will explore what is really happening to bees around the world. We will uncover the science behind colony collapse, examine the role of modern farming, follow the spread of parasites and pathogens, and ask a difficult question: what happens if bees disappear completely? But before we examine the causes, we must first understand the magnitude of what bees actually do. Because when something vanishes, we only truly grasp its importance once it is gone. So let us begin. Close your eyes for a moment and imagine your kitchen without color. No apples, no almonds, no blueberries, no cucumbers, no pumpkins, no coffee. Nearly 1/3 of the food humans consume depends directly or indirectly on pollination, and bees are the most efficient pollinators on Earth. When a bee lands on a flower, it is not trying to help the plant reproduce. It is searching for nectar and pollen to feed its colony. But in the process, pollen sticks to its fuzzy body and transfers to the next flower. This simple exchange enables fertilization. Without it, fruits and seeds cannot develop. Bees pollinate crops worth hundreds of billions of dollars globally each year. But the importance of bees goes beyond economics. Wild plants depend on them too. Forest understories, grasslands, and mountain meadows all rely on pollinators to sustain biodiversity. When bees decline, entire ecosystems shift. And this shift is not theoretical. In regions where bee populations have dropped significantly, farmers have had to resort to hand pollination. Workers climb ladders with brushes, transferring pollen manually between blossoms, a slow, expensive, and inefficient process. Imagine that on a global scale. Could humans replace bees entirely? Technologically, perhaps in limited regions. Economically and ecologically? Almost certainly not. Bees are not just pollinators. They are ecological connectors. They link plant to plant, species to species, season to season. And yet, despite their importance,
bees face threats unlike anything in their evolutionary history. So how did we get here? The answer begins with a mystery that first captured global attention in the early 21st century. In the mid-2000s, beekeepers in North America began noticing something strange. They would open their hives expecting to find tens of thousands of bees. Instead, they found almost none. The queen remained, the brood remained, the honey stores remained, but the worker bees were simply gone. No piles of dead bodies outside the hive, no clear sign of predators, just emptiness. The phenomenon was eventually named colony collapse disorder, or CCD. At first, scientists suspected a single culprit, perhaps a new virus or a novel pesticide. But as investigations deepened, the picture grew more complex. CCD appeared to be multifactorial. Multiple stressors were acting simultaneously, weakening bees until colonies could no longer survive. Parasites drained their energy. Pesticides impaired their navigation. Habitat loss reduced available forage. Climate shifts altered flowering cycles. Individually, bees might survive these challenges. Together, they created a perfect storm. One of the most devastating discoveries was the role of the Varroa destructor mite. This tiny parasitic mite attaches to honeybees and feeds on their body fats, specialized tissues critical to immunity, detoxification, and energy storage. While feeding, the mite transmits viruses directly into the bee's bloodstream. One of the most destructive is deformed wing virus. Infected bees often emerge from their cells with shriveled wings, unable to fly. They crawl helplessly near the hive entrance, doomed from birth. Even bees that appear healthy may carry viral loads that shorten lifespan and reduce efficiency. Imagine an external parasite that spreads disease while slowly draining your strength. That's what many bees face daily. And yet, even Varroa alone doesn't fully explain global decline, because the disappearance of bees is not confined to managed honeybee colonies. Wild bees, bumblebees, solitary bees, native pollinators are also declining, which suggests something larger is happening, a systemic environmental pressure. And that pressure may be rooted in how humans have reshaped the planet over the past century. To understand why bees are struggling today, we must look at how modern farming has changed. For thousands of years, agriculture was diverse. Fields contained multiple crops, hedgerows separated plots, wildflowers grew along borders. There were seasons of abundance and seasons of rest. Bees thrived in this environment. They could move from plant to plant, finding nectar across different species and different flowering periods. The landscape offered variety, nutrition, and continuity. But in the 20th century, agriculture transformed. Efficiency became the goal. Mechanization replaced manual labor, and monocultures, vast fields planted with a single crop, became the dominant model. At first glance, monocultures seem ideal for bees. After all, a field of blooming almonds or sunflowers provides an ocean of nectar. But that abundance is temporary. For a few short weeks, there is overwhelming food. Then, suddenly, nothing. It's like a buffet that appears overnight and vanishes just as quickly. Bees evolved in ecosystems with continuous floral diversity. They rely on a steady variety of pollen sources to meet their nutritional needs. Different flowers provide different amino acids and micronutrients. When bees are forced to feed on a single crop, their diet becomes limited. Their immune systems weaken. Their resilience declines. And monocultures don't simply limit diversity. They also require heavy pesticide use to protect uniform crops from pests. Which brings us to one of the most controversial aspects of bee decline. If you were to ask a beekeeper what changed most dramatically in the past 50 years, many would give the same answer: chemicals. Modern pesticides are designed to target insect nervous systems. That's precisely what makes them effective against agricultural pests. But bees are insects too. A class of pesticides known as neonicotinoids has drawn particular attention. These chemicals are systemic, meaning they are absorbed by the plant and distributed through its tissues, including pollen and nectar. When a bee lands on a treated plant, it may ingest small doses of the pesticide. The exposure is often not immediately lethal.